Yo, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to the show. Got a really important show for you guys today. This is one of the more serious shows. This is one of those, one of those calls for, unity, for people coming together, putting their politics aside and saying, let's work this one out. Let's figure this one out because it involves so many people, so many people's livelihoods. Our food supply, the food supply that our children are going to have and our children's children's. I mean, things are really in transition right now, and I don't think that people really realize what's going on. We're kind of caught up in Obama fever these days, and I think we need to put our Obama pom-poms down for a second and actually start looking at some policy and, not just rhetoric. Seems like if you say anything not so good about the Obama administration, people start to turn their backs on you and whatnot. But if you actually sit back and listen to what's going on, I think that type of sentiment will actually change a little bit. And so we're talking about civil rights. When I think about civil rights, I think about, the fire hoses. I think about Martin Luther King. I think about Malcolm X. I think about the people that, I grew up reading about, Fred Hampton. I think about the FBI and the cohen-cole programs and whatnot. I think about those type of things. But if you ask somebody about civil rights today, no one's going to say, farming. Farmers are having a civil rights issue. No one's going to think today that civil rights have anything to do with the food that we're eating. Most people in this country, at least in the United States, don't even know what a genetically modified food is. And if you go anywhere else in this world, pretty much, they'll tell you straight up, down with genetically modified food. But here we just kind of don't seem to care at all. We just pop things into our mouth, and, if we can open it, and we can, swallow it, we can eat it. And we don't even think twice about that. And we don't think about who that affects. Going down to that farming level, going down to the soil level. And, like I said, there's a lot of messed up things going on. And so Lynn Cohen-Cole is coming on to the show from farmon.com. And I was on the phone with her yesterday, and she blew me away because I didn't even know about a lot of this stuff. As informed as I, pride myself on being, even I was blown away like, whoa, why did I not hear about this? Why wasn't this on, the news sites that I look at? Why don't you ever hear about this on the news? Why isn't anybody talking about this? When it's so important, when people are actually losing their livelihoods, losing their lives. You go to India, Google, you're probably on the internet now, of course, Google India farmers' suicide and learn about why the farmers out in India are killing themselves at a ridiculous rate. And that's starting to happen here. It's a major issue, and it has to come to the forefront, and people need to know more about it. As I said, Lynn's coming on the show. I talked to her yesterday, and she is just full of passion. She writes a lot of articles on opednews.com, and to just look her up and just read, it's just like passion just oozing out of everything that she writes. And I'm so excited that she's coming on the show because you guys, like I said, are going to be blown away. Lynn, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, Sean. How are you?
I am fantastic. I'm super duper excited for tonight's show. I'm so thankful that you have the patience. I know I bumped you a couple weeks ago, and I'm so glad that you stayed patient with me to come on and talk about this issue.
Oh, not at all. I was happy to do it.
I was just talking about your passion, reading your articles, talking to you. You're so passionate about this. You're more passionate about this than, anybody I know. Why are you so passionate about this? Why is this your cause?
Well, it's completely accidental. Last summer, I happened to be watching a PBS NewsHour show by Fred de Sam Lazaro. There was a piece on the NewsHour by Fred de Sam Lazaro, and I was watching it at a time that I was going through something very hard for myself. And as I started watching, the show was saying that a company called Monsanto that I'd never heard of, or barely heard of. I think I associated them with carpeting. Had used Bollywood actors, Indian actors, to sell illiterate farmers genetically engineered seeds at much higher amounts, cost than they had ever paid for seeds before. And then along with the seeds, it turns out they also had to pay for pesticides, which also belonged to Monsanto, and they had to pay for fertilizer, which also belonged to Monsanto. And in each of those things, they went into huge debt. And finally, at the end of the season, it turns out that the seeds, the genetically engineered seeds, needed to be irrigated, and they were selling them in an area of Maharashtra called Vidarbha, where there is no irrigation. It's all rain-fed, so the farmers weren't told, and it was on the bags, but they couldn't read it, and even if they'd been able to read it, it was only in English. Okay, so they got set up, and then when the crops failed, because the seeds were patented, they weren't allowed to collect seeds off their own land, which is what's happened in agriculture since the beginning of time. So Monsanto has interrupted this natural thing where someone grows a crop and then there's seeds at the end and they save those seeds for the next year. And if you're a very thoughtful farmer, you can really do well if you pick the seeds that survive during a drought, or you pick the seeds that survive despite poor land or infestations. Doing that over time, over many generations and hundreds of years, you actually end up with seeds that are ideally suited for each area and incredibly insect resistant. They don't need strong soil. They can do without water. They weren't allowed to collect the seeds at all, and so they were in already many times more debt than they'd ever seen in their lives. Okay, the seeds were 1,000% more expensive than usual. Okay, and that wasn't counting the pesticides and the fertilizers that they had to buy. So they had to then go into more debt to buy seeds again to try again. And when that didn't work, many of them just started killing themselves, and they're still killing themselves. They often in India, farmers will kill themselves by drinking Monsanto pesticide.
Are you serious? I've never heard that before.
That's one of the main ways that they kill themselves. Okay, which is very symbolic, I think, of what's happening.
So Monsanto has made the farmers dependent upon them.
Entirely dependent on them, and even it used to be that there were the people that lent the loans. I can't remember what do you call them? Whoever you call the people in the villages that would lend the money, right?
Uh-huh.
That was a village situation where the money lenders. The money lenders would lend the money, and they would be people that knew each other. And if the farmers did okay, moneylender would get their money back. If some farmers failed, moneylender was in some trouble. But in this case, all the farmers were failing. Moneylenders basically couldn't handle it. I think even moneylenders, I don't know whether they've killed themselves too, but they've been in trouble. And the seed companies have now taken over doing the lending. So now, and often farmers, in order to get the seeds, they have to actually sign the deed of their land over. So if they can't produce a crop, they also lose their land.
So Monsanto has taken over the food, the seeds, the pesticides, and also the land at the same time.
Well, I'm not sure if they end up with the land. There are some laws in India protecting the land from corporations, so that's breaking down now. But anyway, I watched this show, and I was horrified. I can't even describe it. I mean, here are these people that they didn't know. They were intentionally tricked. They were charged huge amounts. They couldn't get out of the system. They were then trapped in it forever. So I started doing all this reading about Monsanto, and then when Hillary Clinton ran for office, I had known her, actually. I was in college with her, in the same dorm with her, and I looked up what happened with Monsanto during the Clinton years. I knew that the first George Bush, was responsible for starting some of genetic engineering. Okay, he put Clarence Thomas on the Supreme Court. Clarence Thomas was a Monsanto employee.